Alright, I don't really know what to call this video. But we talked about grabbing external energy. We've talked about using, at least initially, we've talked about using the subconscious. Um, but those seem like separate things, right? So there's a little step in here that I want to do that that could help kind of marry those two together a bit. But the first thing you need to do, though, so I guess we're introducing a new lesson. Now I know Psiballs, PSI. Some people call them chi balls. Really, they're just energy balls. The terms that are used don't necessarily dictate how it was created. Essentially, what you do is you're just taking some sort of energy and you're putting it into a ball form. Now, one of the easiest ways to do that is between your hands, and that's why you see the exercises doing that. I used to let's see, when was this? This was back in late '90s. Yeah, late '90s. I used to be rolling around at Purdue University area because they had better bookstores. I didn't go to Purdue University, but they had better bookstores than the small town I was in, right? And so I learned about Psiballs then. I didn't really do anything with them. I guess the timing wasn't right. But we've talked about gathering energy from external sources like a tree, a bush, something like that. And we kind of need to use that right now. And so you can use your personal energy, but if you focus it into here and you make it into a ball, you also have to reabsorb that energy, or else it's a net loss, isn't it? And you can say, "Oh, it's a net loss for learning experience," and that's true. But you're starting to see why I say, "Hey, let's grab external energy," because if you have a net loss all the time, uh, that has to be replaced, or it's going to come out of you, right? And so what I'm going to do, I don't have that little bonsai with me now. I don't honestly recommend using one of your house plants if you find that you're really good at pulling energy. And the reason for that is this needs to be practiced, right? These next couple of things need to be practiced, and they're absolutely worthwhile practicing. It will set you up for a whole lot of other stuff later, which is why I'm starting to combine them now, right? But if you pull too much from your little house plants and things like that, you can you can run into problems. You can pull too much from them; it can damage them a bit. You'll find that the energy you get, because they aren't really connected to the ground, um, can kind of degrade over time. And I don't really see I don't like that. So that's me. You do you. So what I'm suggesting here is that um, you can either pre-charge from like a tree. It's a little cold out right now, uh, so I've talked about like using the sun before, and that might be a really good way of doing it. You can use the moon, but quite frankly, it's a lot more comfortable when the sun's out and warm than when the sun has gone down and the moon is out. But that's going to be dependent on where you live, right? I live in Maryland right now. It's going to change. But right now, it's much warmer during the day, considerably warmer than it is at night. So, in my case here, what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to literally pull from a couple of trees I have over here, um, if I feel I need to. Now, I purposefully store energy in other ways, so I don't necessarily need to do that. But we have two real techniques that we need to do here, and the Psiball is just one of them. Right? The Psiball is important, but it's not really critical, in my opinion, compared to the other part of it. You need to be able to form the Psiball, to be able to form energy between them. You can do like this if you want to kind of condense it. You have to tell your mind, to tell it, that thing, you are making this thing more real. Okay, and we'll get to that as that happens. until you don't need it, right? And you can just do it with one hand, or either, or both. And it could be a ball, or it could be a funnel, or it could be anything you want. But not yet, right? So what we're talking about right now is getting back on track here. We're on the Psiballs. And the Psiballs is such a simple exercise, right? It's so simple, it's deceptive. It was deceptive to me. I rejected it I was like, that is so fucking simple. Why the hell would I even want to do that? This must be New Age nonsense. Well, it's not really. I can tell you that there are cultivation practices that I currently do that involve collecting energy in one place and then moving it to another, right? And those techniques take a lot longer to learn to do if you haven't mastered something just as simple as that stupid little Psiball. and I'll call it like that because it seems like that, but it's not. It's not. It's really not. People think, oh, it's simple. We'll do this. You can do it all day long. Oh my God, it's so useful. Blah blah blah. Right? Yeah, it is. But there are other things that are more useful because you can do it, rather than just that little Psiball. Right? So, all right. So what can you do with this little Psiball? Well, you're learning several things. You're learning to collect energy into a specific area. You are learning to focus on that energy in that specific area, and that's actually important because you can collect it all day long. But if you can't hold the focus on it, and you shouldn't have to focus super hard, right? Part of that's practice. You should be able to feel it. If you put energy between your two hands, you should be able to feel it if it pushes back on you, depending on what that energy is. And then you can turn it into whatever you want. But whatever you want, what does that mean? Well, it doesn't really mean much right now. But it will. What it does, though, is it gets used to feeling energy that happens here. Now, if you're like this close to your hands, you're going to be feeling your own energy between your own hands, right? I'm just being honest. I know people, I've been in classes with people who have like twirled their arms like this, like this, like this, and then they look at their hands like this and they're all flushed because gravity has forced the blood that way. They say, no, no, this is all chi. And I was like, no, no. I'm not interested in I'm not interested in methods that can be better explained by physics, right? I'm not. What I am interested in is if I need to pulling energy from one place and putting it between my hands to another. Why? Because it tells me right here in between my hands, I can feel that energy. If I do it with different sources, it gives me insight into the different sources of those energies and how I particularly feel them. Other people may feel them differently, and that's fine. So what it's going to do is I can go like this, I can condense. If you probably didn't, but if you did watch the New Year's thing, there were quite a few condensed candles, right? You don't have to go through the entire hour-long thing to see it. You'll notice I'm doing methods like this. These are cues to myself to make things happen like that, to condense that energy. I could put a whole bunch of energy between here. If I don't do anything, guess what? It doesn't matter. You have to do something with it. So we form it into a ball. Now first we form it a ball like this because it's like a snowball, right? You can do that. I'm assuming people have experienced snow. If you haven't, you can use some mud, I guess, right? Mud works, wet mud, which is why it's mud, not just dirt. So what we're doing is, assuming we have a source of energy, which we have, like here I can take from mine because this isn't going to be a huge, sorry, I did actually take from some of that because I was thinking about it. Here we can take from some of ours, and we're going to condense it a little bit like this. You can pack it like a snowball, right? Now, when you practice feeling the energy of other things and taking that energy, I honestly would suggest that you like back up against a tree or something like that. Something that's like anchored totally in the earth. The larger, I'm going to say the larger the better, but a significantly sized tree, not just some little branchling that's only been around for a couple of years. You want something that's been around for like a really long time. And the reason is that you're at this level, you're not going to be able to pull a whole lot of energy out of it to really damage that tree. And so what you're going to want to do is you're going to think about either the tree or the grass. You could use the grass if that whatever works for you. You do candles if you wanted to. Right? You could pull from the candles, but you're gonna have to pull as the candles burn and store it as that burns. Right. So that's why I'm suggesting a tree. It's already there. Energy's already there. Grass, energy's already there. You're just going to be pulling it up this way instead of grounding it by pushing it down, right? So you're going to pull it up. You're gonna consciously try to feel like it's a ball or something like that. There are two goals from this. Just from this, and one of that is you can try to feel stuff. If you have to go this close because maybe you're only getting like that much, that's fine. Right? Practice that because eventually it's going to go like, it might be like this. Then it might be like this after you've done it several times. Once or twice, that's not enough, right? Not enough. This is a skill you need to cultivate. If, I guess it depends on your goals. But, sorry, just kick that. It's a skill you want to cultivate. So what will happen over time is you pull energy in from like the sun, the moon, trees, grass. You're going to find that you're going to go like this and you're going to start to feel resistance. Because you will start to feel resistance once you codify that is there. And that resistance is actually part of you increasing your sensitivity, which does take time. You're not going to like, oh, I'm the fucking master and do that. Well, you might, but if you are, you're going to be waiting a really long time, Mr. Master or Mistress Master. Mistress? Right. Don't know. Sorry. But what's going to happen is, over time, that area that was maybe like this first, and even if you're just feeling your own hands, that's going to be okay at first, right? It is. Don't try to find try to make a ball from that. Try to absorb some sun, and then put your hands like this, and then visualize that the sun hitting your skin is forming here. And that's a really important skill to practice. People don't think it's a skill, but it is a skill. People daydream all day long, right? How much of that comes true? Not much at all, right? Why? Because there's nothing put against it. Okay? Now, we're not talking about like opportunity. We're not talking about, clearing the path or anything like that. People daydream all the time, even about just really simple stuff. Right? With magic, we're kind of taking that and adding energy to it. So we need to understand and practice and do the energy component, right? So what we're going to do is, all right, think about like this. If you needed something else, if you're having problems, we know that there are energies and atoms and things like that between our hands. So let's condense it. Let it go. Condense it. Let it go. Condense it. And that didn't cost you anything, but what you will start to feel over time, right, is this is our gathering process. So we're just gathering that small amount right here. When we access energy from a tree, the sun, the moon, we're pulling it into us, and then we're focusing it right here, which is another technique we need, right? We need those techniques. So we need to be able to do that. Psiballs are not difficult. They take some practice, but as simple as they seem, they actually cover quite a few things. They cover the the collection of energy, the transference of energy, the focusing of energy, and actually the focusing of attention on all of those things. Our bodies can do this anyhow, right? It has to be directed. And that's kind of where the subconscious part comes in. All right, so we've talked about the Psiballs, we've talked about condensing, blah, blah, blah. The second, the real intent of this video was going to be, you know, hey, I've collected my energy, and now I'm going to use my subconscious to tell it where to go, and it will happen. But it's a bit far out. We have to focus first on something we can use and comprehend to focus energy here, right? Because if we know what it feels like when we compress it, then we can take that and compress it into a single palm, right? And so where does the subconscious come in, right? Well, all right. Well, let me reabsorb it, because I could throw that amount away. It doesn't matter. But you could take what are we really getting towards with this, right? Yes, we have to practice this, but why are we doing it? You have to know how this feels, so that when you use a single palm and you put your focus here, right? The next step for this is that you do it with a single palm. Even if you do something like this, right? Even if you're, using like a sword finger or something like that, the palm, you're putting it into a single palm, holding it, right? That's literally the next step. Now, okay, big deal, good job, pat yourself on the back, you did nothing, right? No. The combination of there's a combination that can happen right here with just this palm and these simple exercises that, if you start to do it, will pay off tremendous dividends later on. And it goes something like this. I know I've gathered this energy consciously, right? I set my palm here and I say, here, well, let me actually get a specific energy type, because that's just easier for me. All right, I've reached out into the earth. I've grabbed magma, fire. Right? I've got it in my palm. I've got it in myself. I tell myself, make a ball of fire in my hand. And it will make a ball of fire in my hand. Now, what is that? That is a combination of a couple things. It's a combination of practicing the technique of making the ball of fire. The Psiball. Same thing. It's the same thing. Different energy type. It's the combination of, you often hear the phrase, or at least I say the phrase, the mind directs, the will sees it through. And that's because as things get more complex, through practicing some of these techniques that involve a lot more processes than you really think, you start to develop that, where you can just say, give me a ball of fire. Give me a ball of ice. And then I can imprint that ice however I want and set it off, right? Oh, well, what would I do with imprinted ice? Well, you wouldn't. Right? Well, you could, but you probably wouldn't. How would you use that? Okay. Shadownomicon. I need a gate. I make these motions. I set the intent. I say what it is. I open it up. And I let it happen, right? Okay, I've got this gate open right here, right? I do. It's actually like right there. I connect to that gate. I say, give me a ball. Give me some shadow energy right here that I can then use for something. And it's the same thing. Right? Because these balls, eventually you'll find out that connecting These things are all constructs, and they happen once practiced, just like driving a car in a sense. There does take some additional focus and stuff, but in the same way that you still have to concentrate when you drive a car every time you drive a car. A lot of the other processes get processed for you behind the scenes. You, the capital Y, you, right? The, I would say the subconscious, right? Not that's not quite the same thing, but when I say give me a ball of shadow energy, and I put my intent there, you know, bam, it's going to happen, right? And it's going to happen because I've practiced it, because I've told myself this is how it's going to work, and so the rest of me makes that happen. And that's really an important thing to understand. If you have to think about the driving is actually a really good example. If you have to think about every single little interaction that you do, you are never going to get good at driving. Right? You have to get, competence in those basic things. And then once you do have competence in those basic things, you can focus on the more complex tasks that need your attention after that point. And it's the same process that we're doing here. So this little Psiball that you're doing, that eventually you'll say, with whatever hand, give me a ball of fucking ice, water, earth, nature, fire, solar, stellar, whatever you want to do. It takes practice. Practice. You need to be able to access it. You need to know how that feels. And that takes time. You'd be like, oh my God, this is so much. Why would I do that? Well, you wouldn't really. What you're going to do is you're going to think, oh, I need X, Y, Z for ritual. Right. Say I want to send grounding energy to a friend of mine that's become high strung because they have just a lot going on. Maybe they're doing a lot of university admissions or something like that. Maybe they just have a tremendous number of stress. Maybe they're just high strung. Maybe I want to send them some grounding energy, right? Well, how would you do that? Wish I had a candle right here. Let me get one. So, blue candle. Maybe somebody's having a bad day. Maybe I want to wash away some of that bad day for them without making some type of overt, you thou shalt, whatever. All right, we can do that. We've talked about opening sigils before as places of power. So let's roll. We got so if I open that up, which is not much different. That's true. Okay. That is a big step. I'm sorry. All right. So what can I do? All right. I've got. I don't have any brown candles, so I'm just going to use this blue one because, quite frankly, it doesn't matter to me. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go ahead and reach down to the earth. I'm going to specifically ask and call for, in my head, just like I want ice energy. I'm going to ask because I'm asking because I'm nice sometimes. For that energy, I'm going to pull it in with this hand. I don't care which hand you use. I'm left-handed. I can use either hand for either. And then when that comes in, I'm going to then let it go and flood into this candle. Why? Because I've been able to call energy into my palm. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm calling the energy into my palm. And here I'm just telling it, hey, just go up into this other one. One step above what we've talked about. So now I've got a whole bunch of grounding energy inside of this candle, right? Now I can go ahead and put my friend's name on it. Maybe I can sit and put some intent about how, if I specifically know how it could help them, maybe to relax, maybe to remember what they should be prioritizing, because it could just be work, and it could be something temporary that are just kind of thinking too hard on. And this candle will hold that type of energy. I imprint them on it, like I put their name on there. I think about them like that. I might just want to put it on here, similar to a Psiballs, right? Hands like this or whatever, one hand, doesn't matter. Imprint them onto this candle as the recipient of that energy. There you go. You can do the same thing with a god, goddess, angel, nature spirit. This could be an offering. All right? So